Hi, everybody. How's
Hey.
everybody doing? Good. You can hear us okay? Okay, cool.
All right, Rolonda, would you like to start? Tell us a
Sure.
little bit about yourself and what it is that you do in real estate.
Sure. Well, my name is Rolonda Hernandez. I am from Raleigh, North Carolina, in that area. I am a real estate consultant, so I do a couple of things. I help governmental agencies create and operate their real estate divisions. One of the major players that I've worked with is NYC to help them transition their software. And I also help the private sector as well, online entrepreneurs that are wanting to get into the real estate industry. I'm the founder of WRECONF.com, where we help somebody that wants to get into it. All of the versions that we have in the real estate industry, they can learn about it. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
So my name is Danielle Benicia. My company is JLD Advisory, and I am the founder and president. But before starting my company, I started as a real estate investor. I transitioned into real estate brokerage, and from there I've become a developer and consultant for commercial real estate in the New York City market.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's great.
It's a commercial real estate is actually a really fun industry to be in.
It is.
And there's so much to learn. So why don't we talk a little bit about what complexities you think a first-time investor trying to get into the industry would have? What advice would you give them?
It's a great question. As a small-time investor that I started just one property, looking at it and saying I'm going to get into real estate at some time, in some way, doesn't matter. I think I kind of had to ask that question when I first started, and I think it's analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so much to do in so many ways to get inside of the real estate industry. I think that can overwhelm a first-time investor to see how they can go with their budget and all the variables that they have to put into place, right? I think that would be my first one, which is so much. Where do I start?
Exactly,
You know?
exactly. I totally agree with you on that. But, you know, I would even break it up into like 4 areas. First is specifically figuring out which part in real estate, pinpointing the area that you're most comfortable with, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial. There's a lot of different facets in real estate. And you need to be comfortable with the one that speaks to you.
Yes.
Once you pinpoint it and say, okay, today I want to be in residential real estate, then you need to focus on the locations. Like we know that in real estate, location,
Right.
location. And then you need to know your location very well. Have your market studies done, research. Research is key. And then once you decide to move forward with the location and the area that you, and the kind of properties you want to be in, I would suggest invest with somebody that already has a track record, somebody you
A mentor.
trust. Yes, exactly. Somebody you could know, like, here's my money, a certain amount of money. It shouldn't be your life savings, but it should be something you're comfortable with, and try it out that way first. And lastly, I would say use your gut. Like, if your gut says do it, sometimes it's worth taking that risk.
Yes.
But if your gut is like, I feel unsafe and on the fence, then I would definitely trust your gut before you moving forward.
I like those 4 points. Finding a mentor is something that can be challenging, though.
Yes.
What is your experience with that?
Yeah, so it's really a lot of networking. Find people maybe in your family or other people that you've seen be successful in real estate. Try to approach them, come to them for advice, email them, reach out to them. Follow also what they're doing. Like for example, right now there's some platforms like on Instagram, I see something that in the New York City market is called Traded NY. So every week they feature another property that goes for sale, and they have all the bullet points, like how much was the property sold for, the price per square foot, who's buying it, and it gives you a lot of advice into the real estate world before you take that leap. Also something like The Real Deal, magazines, and just finding, the real estate world happens, especially in New York City, is a very small world.
Yeah.
Finding those people that are doing well and kind of like following their footsteps. It will never be exactly like what there is. Everybody has their own luck and their own success. But it will help you understand the risks in the market.
I agree. And that's a very important part, which is everybody's journey is different. Your journey is not going to look like your mentors. Your budget's different. A lot of variables go into play with your own journey. So having that mindset at first, I think also helps with, am I not doing it right? Am I doing it right? What I'm supposed to do? You know, that kind of
Yeah,
lessens that
exactly.
anxiety a little bit, I think.
So when you started as a real estate investor, what are some personal difficulties you had?
Well, being a mom, by myself raising my three, I just wanted to be in the industry, so I just started saying, let me get my home for my children. And then I'll go from there. I'll learn from the experience of buying my own home, so starting on the residential side first. But my 9 to 5 job was more in commercial. So I knew at that point helping the big hats, the big wigs, go through some of their leases that commercial is where I wanted to go. So I learned how to do that and just kind of moved towards that, finding a mentor on the corporate side, and just kind of learning, just getting my hands in there and learning anything and everything that I can learn at one time. That's how I went into
Yes.
it.
What year is this that you started?
That was back in '99.
Wow, a while ago. So my first real estate investment transaction was back in 2006. You know, my husband and I had recently gotten married. We were college graduates, and we had like our wedding money, but we also had 2 small children. And we're like, we want to do something with this. We need to find another avenue from our current, day jobs, and we need to invest in something. All our friends were doing it, and this was in 2006. 2006 was like the hottest market. Like everything was blowing up anywhere you were touching it. So we started with a very small investment that was around like 150,000, I'm just gonna say. And we gave that money to somebody we trusted who was doing very well in the real estate world. And we said, here, take this money, and bring us more.
Right.
Flip it. Don't lose it. Just don't lose it. So what happened is within that 1 year, they doubled our investment. So our 150,000 became 300,000. And anytime you're gambling, it feels good. So we're like, here, take it, do it again. So they did, and that the following year, that 300,000 turned out to be 600,000, and that was late 2007. And that was super exciting, but you gotta know when to get off the table.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So 2008 came. 2008 came, and we actually put it in another investment. This was a commercial investment. It was for a development site. It was a hotel development site in Brooklyn. And we said, all right, this is going to be great. But the deal was that it's going to take 3 years instead of a year. It's going to take 3 years, and we will be close to doubling our money, which is still it's amazing returns. So we were really excited about it. And then 2008 came, and slapped us really hard in the face. We got very lucky that we did not lose our investment. But what happened was a project that was supposed to take 3 years now took 6 years. And our return of, let's say, 3 years, it should have been like 33% a year. It now became, after 6 years, we did ended up getting our money out, and it did double, but now our return is 15% a year. It was great, and we got lucky. But for those three years, plus another 3 years to build, we were kind of flatlining. We weren't getting into any new investments. And I think part of being a good investor is knowing not to take more risk than you could handle.
Risk management.
Exactly. I was like, I want to be in my next deal, but at the same time, you have to hedge your risk. So that was kind of like the difficulty, I would say, between 2008 and 2011. Those were really rough times. But real estate, as you know, is cyclical.
Yeah, it is.
So,
well, that's a good point that you brought up, which is 2008. And since you were in the industry at that point, let's talk about the difficulties of COVID.
Yes.
And the comparison in 2008. How do you think that market and this market kind of parallels with the difficulties and with the variables of with COVID and the new stipulations that you have to do with housing and flipping and turning over those things? What do you think about that?
I think this time with COVID, things are a little bit different. I thought that there was going to be a much greater correction than currently is. In New York City, the market is still hot. Like there are a lot of vacancies in retail and office and residential, but at the same time, people are still trading, people are still buying because interest rates are low. During COVID, the beginning time, it was very hard to get financing, but now the banks are opening up again and things are still moving forward. So I do think that we are going to see a lot of changes in the industry. Like there's a lot of empty retail space, empty office space. I think it's going to be repurposed for different things, maybe better things, new opportunities. But I don't think, I think we're very lucky, knock on wood, that it's really not as bad as it was in 2008. How do you see it?
I agree. I know a little bit about New York City because I was going to move up there. So when we talk about some of these vacant spaces, I see a lot of landlords giving credits for those to come back into the city because when Rona happened, everybody moved out of the city. And then you're moving towards a more remote type of workforce. So have you seen that in your industry, talking about different markets?
Yeah, so the same idea, like so in the city itself, a lot of people left the office space. They're like, we don't need, I don't know, 5,000 square feet of office space in Manhattan. A lot of people just wanted to work from home. But it was very interesting because last night I took my kids to a place here out in Vegas called Area 15. I don't know if you heard of it. But it was like, I'm gonna say 50,000 or 100,000 square feet of warehouse kind of space that was utilized to experience-based. It was like an interactive art. It was like everything was virtual reality.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Super fun, a lot of
Sounds fun.
experience. So with Corona, we learned nobody wants to be locked up anymore. Even the airport getting here, everybody was going somewhere. The airports were packed. So that just goes to show you that people want more experience. They want to do things with the family. They want to go out. They want restaurants. So I think those spaces that are empty are going to be repurposed to things like that.
I agree. I agree with you.
How do you see it in North Carolina?
In North Carolina, I think it's more, Airbnb has popped up more. You know, that's one of the methods that you can earn in real estate. And I think that with gentrification coming through for North Carolina, specifically in Raleigh, I think that's been something with Rona that you can do without being there.
Yes,
So what
exactly.
other services can you do remotely? I think is going to increase in the real estate market.
Absolutely, I agree with you. So do you have some suggestions on if somebody is a first-time real estate investor, what platforms would they use in order to do some research or to get more acquainted with the industry?
That's a good question, and not to name drop. So it's kind of like, what do you say? I would first start, if I were to do it again, I wouldn't buy a single family home. I would buy a multifamily home.
Yes.
I think the investment would be a lot better with every variable that we're dealing with now. I think that would be my suggestion for anybody that would get into in the industry now. But the software that I would use, there is a software now that has came out and has been very good. It's called Privy. That also helps you see where everybody's buying. See where the market is, see where, if your strategy is you want to have a certain rate of return, what you will have. So that shows that industry as well, whether it be industrial, commercial, residential. So I would ask the person to look at Privy and see, to do your market research, or comps, right? Use a realtor to do that.
Exactly. So in New York City, I think it's nationwide though, we use Property Shark. Are you familiar with
Yes,
Property
Property
Shark?
Shark.
So I feel like when you're, for commercial real estate, I find Property Shark very informative.
Yes.
It gives you like all the buildable square footage, the floor area ratios, the price it was sold for, the tax, the property taxes, things like that. Other things to use is like, I use CoStar. Are you familiar with CoStar? So same idea, they give you leasing comps, sales comps, and everything is like on your fingertips. I remember years ago, we didn't have these tools. It wasn't so accessible to us. So it was much harder to do this research. But definitely, I think that somebody utilizing these tools would probably do much better in their search.
Yes, well, I think these tools are more towards the professional. What about the private sector? Like if I'm just a brand new mom trying to find a house and do comps with my realtor, what suggestion did you have for them?
So again, I don't know as much as as maybe you would in terms of private homes. Like we would use Zillow or get stuff from our realtor, but also I would spend the money on an appraisal, any kind of property you're getting. Even if you're just thinking about buying a property that's very interesting to you, it's let's say $2 million, and it's better to spend $3,000 to $5,000 to get an appraisal. The appraisal will give you all the comps, the sales comps, the market comps for like kind properties, and I think that's going to give you a basis point, like somebody was saying before, that the comps are coming in much lower than a price you would pay for it, but it would give you an understanding of where the market is holding.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree.
And then, another question is, how do you know if a deal is good or bad?
Great question. Great question. I think it goes back to a personal strategy, right? Because your great deal is not my great deal. Why are you getting into this market? Why are you looking into this part or this parcel or this property? What exactly do you want this to do for you in your portfolio? I think it starts there on whether it's a good deal or not.
Absolutely. For me, when I look at properties, because I literally spend half my day searching for properties and investments and developments, I love things with upside. If somebody's bringing me a newly constructed property where the tenants it's 100% occupied and it's at a 5 cap, which is like an okay cap in New York City, that doesn't sound interesting to me. I try to find properties that are actually distressed, where I could change tenants, bring more value, do some renovations on it, and see how can I make this property grow more in value with what I could bring to it. And to me, that's a good deal. Also, if I'm doing a development site, I'm looking at the price per square foot. So let's say the average price per square foot in a market that I usually buy in is like Brooklyn, is about $150 a square foot. I'm not going to purchase something at $200 a square foot. I'm going to try to get it maybe at $140, $130. If it's an amazing property, I'll get it at $150, $155. But that will hedge my risk because I know that's where the median is. If somebody's asking $300 a square foot for that property, I know that's not a good deal. I'm not going to be able to have enough of a buffer or a premium to have upside on. So that would be my advice.
Awesome.
Let's see what other questions we have here. Do you guys have any questions for us? Well, I do want to ask you this. How does it feel being a woman in a very predominantly male industry?
Heavy question. Heavy question. Let's talk about the operational side, since I dealt with the consultancy side of helping governmental agencies. In those teams, you have mostly men. Outside, I have a maintenance company as well, mostly men. 98% is mostly men. So I have to go into certain scenarios, certain ways, okay? As the operational side, being a consultant and actually teaching individuals how to use a software, I think it's more, it has been interesting, let's say that in a wrap. Gender roles are still there. What people think you can provide, that's still there. How many hands out there, and it can be opposite too, men as well. How many out there has dealt with something sexist in this industry? Right, 50% men too, because we have some women out here because of, we can utilize that, right? As a contractor, I've noticed that if I go on a property, I have to have my weapon. Because if we really look at it, I have 4 or 5 contractors that's all men, and we're in this small space together. I don't know you, you don't know me, right? And if you've seen on the news, you have some realtors doing open houses and they're coming up missing and being killed. So that safety part is an important piece of it, right? Some men might not have that concern, but me being petite and all of that, I'm dealing with a lot of men, just a lot of men. And then it goes into personal lives, right? If your partner, now we'll go into support and all of that. If your partner doesn't have a certain level of trust, now you have to deal with that, right? Because now they want to be protective of you and da-da-da-da. But I'm like, I deal with men all day. If you don't trust that, or if you have a question, then maybe you should shadow, or, I have my taser or I have my weapon. I carry my 380 everywhere I go. I am a concealed license, so let's say that. But I do carry.
Yay.
Yes.
I need that in New York.
Yes, I do carry. And everybody, I just say, hey, we're professional here. I just need a job done. Give me a quote and let's go ahead and leave. So I don't really play with that. But on the operational side, let's say consultancy, some people think that I don't know all the answers, and I've been in here and I have to tell them, listen, I've been doing this for 10 years, over 200 implementations. So I do have a little bit of knowledge on what it is, but you have the babies and you have the sweethearts and my way is better. And I'm like, but you hired me, so make it make sense. But
Exactly.
those are the experiences that I have. So it kind of goes through personal life and professional. What about you?
So I'm going to say that I don't think there's ever been a greater time to be a woman in the industry.
That's true.
Ever in history. I think it is a little bit intimidating when I used to go to like all these, especially in New York, we have like a lot of like macho guys that are in brokerage, that are in development. And for every one girl, there's like 1,000 guys.
Yeah.
But
Literally.
I kind of feel like it works to my advantage because when I find new clients or when I'm working with new partners, I feel like a woman's presence is like a breath of fresh air. Like you don't want to talk to another guy making his pitch, doing the whole hustle. But when you talk to a woman, they have a softer approach. And I think that over the years, I've built up my confidence. I know I've built up the knowledge and experience. And when people know or feel that you're being honest with them and you know what you're talking about, whether it's a man or a woman, they will respect you and what you have to say. They want to hear what you have to say. So I do feel that we have come a long way for women in the industry. I hope we get more women in the industry because there's definitely opportunity for them. But I do feel that we are on a good playing field. But like you mentioned with your husband or other, like my husband came to work for me, with me, I should say. And he's always watching my back, but at the same time, he's like, listen, this is your business. You know what you're doing, whether it's a man or a woman, you know, keep that hustle going.
I agree. And that makes me think of a situation when I was doing maintenance. My maintenance man was out and I had to go to a property and deal with a water heater. And it was like, oh, you know about, yes, I do. I know how to do that. I know how to change toilets. I know how to do all of that good stuff. So just kind of, excuse me, you know, you hired me to do a service, let me do it. And they were just like, wow. So I encourage anybody that wants to get into HVAC, plumbing, be an electrician, anything that you want to do, you still can do it. It might be a few of us, but we stand strong together and we just want to get the job done in a professional way as possible. If you know your industry, if you know your market, if you know your expertise, that's all that you need to know and you'll be okay. Just bring your 380, just in case somebody goes out the boundaries. Okay.
It's New York City. I could only use like pepper spray or something.
Pepper spray, no. Get the bullet. No. Sorry.
No, I hear you. No, but I think we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in the real estate world for women. Like for example, in New York City, I'm currently getting my WBE, which is a women's business enterprise, and it's amazing because they're really giving women and minorities the platform to be more successful, to step up your game, take those entrepreneurial roles. There is opportunity for you, and I think that's great because I have a young daughter, a teenage daughter, and I would love for her to take that to the next level, for her generation.
Do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
If you have a passion to do it, just do it.
Power to the women. Yes.
Just
Do you have some questions?
Questions? Yes. I think we had a question here.
Yeah.
You ladies are a fun duo. This is
Thank you. We need to have our own show, right?
Yeah, literally that's what it felt like. I just talking on this, the sense of like these investment groups that really get people stirring with excitement about how much money they can make. And my father and I have a small brokerage in Arizona. We have taken on a couple recent clients that have purchased investment properties, commercial, that they were guided to by these investment groups. And unfortunately, they don't really have, even after a weekend or a week course and paying so much money, they still don't have really a knowledgeable way of going about this and assessing a property for themselves. You know, we want to trust a professional. That way we don't have to become a professional in everything, right? So have you ladies encountered individuals that have taken on a bad investment deal and you are just attempting to help them get it off their portfolio? Like it's something that is dragging them down and they need to release it. Because I currently have a client that they gave up on an offer, and I really do think it might be one of the only ones in the next coming months that they're going to really receive that was decent. Because in Arizona right now, the commercial space for offices is just tanked. And we're seeing some, movement, but I'm asking, what would you suggest to help really move? Because I've been very transparent and honest. Like, you're just wasting $2,000 a month on this thing. Like, let's get it off. And there's this fear, like I'm going to lose my money that I put into it. Instead of looking at the future, if I hold on to this, I'll be losing so much more. What would you do?
I think that goes back to transparency with your client and telling them really what the industry is doing, and also having a cash buyer list. I have cash buyers everywhere. So if that wouldn't move, then I would push that to my cash buyers to see if it could, and just say to the clients, listen, we might have to adjust this to get this off, right? And that's realistic because of everything else that's going on, right? All these other variables that we can go into of the why. But that would be my suggestion, is honestly saying, hey, this might be your only one. Do you want to have this bite, or work with them, modify it some type of way to get it off? And it depends on how fast they want to get it off. You know, if they want to keep it in their portfolio, or, okay, after 6 months, then what? You know, then after 12 months, then what? What are we going to do with that? Are we going to hold it? Okay, well, then it might be depreciating. We don't know how the industry is going to be with Rona around. You know, just going to just look different for commercial space right now. That would be my first thought. What about you?
So I actually had a client similar to that, where they had a property and the zoning for the property was for a hotel. And I brought them at that time the highest offer they could have gotten. And they said, no, we think we could get more. And I said, no, I don't think you can. This is the highest offer you're going to get. And no matter how many times I sat with them, and literally at that moment, my role was as a real estate broker. And I kept going to them and spent so much of my personal time explaining to them, this is all you're going to get. It's not worth anymore. They didn't believe me, because you could only bring a horse to the water, but you can't get it to drink. And what happened was New York City changed the zoning on this property where you could no longer put a hotel on it. So now the property, let's say, was worth $2 million. If they got $1 million for it, they'd be lucky. And what I tried to do for them, which is maybe what you could do, is find them an alternate property that they could take that money, like they'll sell, like you got them an offer, get them to take that money and put it in a different property. Even if they lose a little bit of money, but bring them into a different property where they could make more money or has more of a future value, and they just have to readjust their portfolio. But again, if they don't see that after how many times you're honest, there's only so much you can do. You know, they're going to need to realize we're losing too much money. We got to kind of like cut the cord here.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm at that point of my time is just, I feel like I'm wasting it now with them. So
then my question is, at that point, do you fire a client?
That's what I was just going to ask. Yeah? Okay,
yes.
My dad's ready to fire them, and I don't want to.
Yeah, we did all that we can do.
Listen, I wouldn't burn the bridge, because you never know what other opportunity you'd have in your back pocket to show them, or a different buyer. But again, you kind of like ease them off if they're not coming to that realization themselves.
Well, firing doesn't necessarily burn, right?
Yes.
Burning the bridge, but just realistically say, hey, this is all that we can do, and good luck.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're wasting
time is money, and timing is everything. In real estate, timing is everything. If they don't make that connection, then they're going to have to learn from that experience themselves.
Yep. No problem.
Anybody else?
Yes, we have one.
Thank you guys so much for your insight. My name is Ileana. My husband and I own a construction and plumbing company, and we're planning to move more into investment, and particularly in the residential multifamily side. We're in a really busy market. We're in South Florida, so there's a housing crisis. There's, a shortage of homes. And one of the things that I'm wrestling with a little bit, and I'm hoping you guys can speak to, is just kind of like the ethical dilemma I have with buying a property, fixing it up, and raising the rents, and what that's going to do to the people that were previously living in that building. And of course, there's 10 investors planning to do the same thing to that same property, so it's going to happen anyways. But I just was wondering if you guys had any insight to that or could speak to that at all.
Go ahead, that's yours.
Really? Two things, construction and plumbing, favorite, right? Because I have a maintenance company that we do those things with, right? Rehabbing. My suggestion to you in that area with Florida, you're in a great market. I will open that up and ask you to look into governmental contracts.
Yes.
That's going to be your best bet. You're making money there. And then two, what you kind of brought up in my mind was more regentrification that's happening in the area, right? I look into the Miami area. That's something that I'm looking to invest in and have investors there. So I have my ear to the ground there in that area. Don't know if that was close to your area in Florida, but knowing that somebody's going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So you have to decide if you're going to do it or you're going to let somebody else do it. Look at the strategy that you have and parallel it to what's happening in that area and seeing what you want to do. But it's going to happen anyway, right? It's going to happen anyway.
And I would say that you're compensating them. You're giving them a better unit. So there's a reason for the rent increase because they're getting a better
Quality of living.
Yes, living situation. So I don't find that to be an ethical issue. Like we had this in New York, but now the laws, the rental laws and the regulations changed. And a lot of owners don't have any upside in their buildings, unfortunately. So the rents could stay the same for a very long time. And that puts a strain on the landlord because all other costs are going up. The real estate taxes are going up, the utilities are going up. So there definitely needs to be some compensating factors. And if you guys have an opportunity in South Florida to do that, I would actually take advantage at this time.
An example that comes into mind is the Raleigh market. It's kind of similar downtown, right? I lived there all my life, and I've seen a house that would have went for $30,000 now has been rehabbed to a $700,000 house. So of course that rent is going to be different, but what do you do with the people that were living there and what do you do with the people that are coming in? So now you have a line here with the city where you see all of these $1 million homes sitting beside like a $30,000 house that's ready to be renovated. So then I go, do I grab that? Do I grab that? Do I rehab it? Do I make $1 million on this thing? But it's happening anyway. So what do I want to get in front of or do I want to get behind? That's the question.
Yeah.
Thank you for your insight.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
it.
problem. We have one in the back here.
Yeah, I just want to second you two together are fabulous. You should definitely have a podcast. So my name's Lauren. My fiance and I just recently got into real estate development. We're actually in our 4th property, mostly in West New York, Union City, just outside of Manhattan. And we're looking to grow to 10 properties ideally in the next year, but we've kind of tapped out our personal financial situations, the 401k loan to put into the house, and now because we own more than one property, we obviously are now looking at investment mortgages, which is 25% down. And in our area, multifamily homes at the lowest end are looking at $650,000, $750,000. So my question to you guys and you ladies is, where should we find the next round of funding? And do you have any advice there? And would you suggest staying in an area that we know well versus going outside to like Cincinnati, Ohio, or upstate New York or Connecticut, or even South Florida? I hate to say it, but it's cheaper there. And where should we go next to grow as quickly as we can so we can get out of our day jobs?
That's a good question. I think New York is your market.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to stop you right there. Don't go into a market or any territory that you are not 100% familiar with. For example, I am a seasoned real estate investor, developer, whatever. I will not leave New York City. I feel safest there. I feel that my money is safe there. Everybody's running to Florida. Florida's great. I just can't do it because that market needs a lot of my attention. I need to know what I'm doing. and to just go there because everybody else is going there, I don't find that safe. So it's hand in hand. If you want to find another market than the one you're in right now, that's great. Not 3 other markets, maybe just one, and master it. Like really know the ins and outs and be able to hedge your risk.
That's good.
And if you want to get more money for your investments, so there's a few avenues. You could find more debt, or you could bring on equity from other like-minded investors. But you have to be very careful because people will trust you with their money, and you and your fiance need to be prepared to, no matter what, be able to return them their money, and hopefully with some upside. Because that's going to determine your track record. So let's say you take 2 family members or 2 friends' money and pool it together and say, guys, we're going to buy this property, and then we'll split all the profit after. You could take a little developer fee because you're spending more time on it and they're just passive investors. You could take that approach. I would not take too many people, and I would start out small. Build a track record where people trust you, where you've delivered. You found one house, you made them some money, you made yourself some money, then you move on to the next. Never bite more than you can chew. That would be my greatest advice to you.
One little snippet before we go, that real estate is so vast, right? You can get into mortgages, you can get into multifamilies, you can get into wholesaling, you can get into all these other things that you necessarily don't have to have a parcel to cover, right, with your investment property. And I know you said you did 401k, so you can use your self-directed 401k to purchase some of these things, like a mortgage lien. You know, first, second positions, you can have that as well as an investment to look into as well. If you don't want to go into a market physically, you can also have like a mortgage note, and you don't have to go into, a market, right? It's an area you're looking forward to buy your lien on.
And also, I would look at another avenue of income in real estate. So for example, if you're looking for houses for yourself to invest in, and you find something that not necessarily you have the money for, I would broker that or find another buyer, an opportunity, collect small fees, build up your equity. Because that's literally what I did. Yes, that's literally what I did. I built up through a lot of my equity through brokerage, and then I use that in developing. And at the same time, you build a network of people, and that network, you partner up with other people that have already been doing it, let's say in another market that you want to enter, but at least they know what they're doing, and together you combine your expertise and grow from there.
I agree.
Anybody else?
Oh, we have one right here. Sure.
So you get together with investors, other investors, to have a project, or are you just doing your own investment?
I know I have an investment group, so I go out, find investments, and I position them to the group and say which ones do they want to invest in. And I have couples, so let's say a husband and a wife that's in an investment group, they say that they want to invest in option 3. So then we'll go and we'll present them with that, and we'll run through that. They'll buy it, flip it, whatever. And let's say that you're an investor number 2 and you like my property number 5, then that's yours. You go on and handle it like that. So it just depends for me. Well, I don't know about you. Yeah.
What is the mechanism? In other words, A, how do you find these investors? And then B, do you hire an attorney to draw up paperwork
Absolutely.
Yes.
on all this?
Yes, and networking, right? So just like we just met, we just met today on the platform. So now I have a contact in New York that if she's looking for a certain amount of properties, then I'll have that in mind. And when I find those, I say, hey, is this something that you're interested in? And we'll network and partner in that way.
For somebody that hasn't collaborated to invest in properties in collaboration with others, a roadmap on how to do that, the devil's in the details, that would be a cool thing.
That's a great idea, actually. Suggestion, Facebook, LinkedIn. They have
There's
groups
also
there.
crowdfunding
Crowdfunding
platforms,
is one. Crowdfunding is
where
one.
people that have small amount of investments can pool their money together and invest in something bigger, better.
Thank you.
I couldn't see you because of the light.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I I do fix and flips, and you know, we work with hard money. We have a gap funder. We're expanding and trying to bring on more projects, and because of that, we need more gap funders. So we're constantly looking, but I'm realizing negotiations are happening in between each one specifically. I'm curious as to how, when you guys do an investment, what you expect. Typically, the way we do it is we take net profit and do a percentage split. And I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, what percentage are you looking for on that net split?
That's what I do. Do you do something different?
I don't know if I understood the question. Are you a hard money lender?
No, I'm a flipper. I work with hard money lenders, and then I have gap funders. So the gap between what the lender gives us and what we need, because we have multiple properties, we find individuals to invest, and then we split net profit.
So you could split. If you have more to offer, you could give them less and then take more. It's whatever they're comfortable with whatever percentage they're comfortable. Maybe some of them will just take a 20%, split, and you get 80% of it. It all depends on what they're comfortable with.
And that's typically, we kind of negotiate it, but I was just wondering, because you guys have been doing this for so long, is there a percentage that you're actively seeking when you look for these investments?
So percentage on when I do developments, you're saying? Or in general, if I have investors?
If you have investors.
So personally, for me, I have been an investor, and I have very lightly taken on investors. I'm more comfortable with partners that are putting in just as much time and energy into the deal as I am. I do not like to take on investors because I have to be very comfortable with giving them back their money, and there is a risk because of the market. Now, it's not because I think I'm going to lose their money. I'm very confident in the deals that I do, and I feel like I have enough buffer room to make money. It's just because they're investors, they don't have the same understanding of the market as I do. So whatever I'm telling them, okay, the construction cost went up for lumber, because they're a doctor, a lawyer, or whatever, they're like, okay, I don't care, I just need to make X amount of dollars. But hey, we're over budget. Now, anybody else in real estate is going to understand that it's very hard to be within your budget. But because they're investors, they don't have that same tough skin, and you need to explain that to them.
That's a good point.
And if they feel uncomfortable because they think that oh, what is she doing? Maybe it didn't go up, maybe it did. They really need to have a very strong trust. I just try to stay away from that because I don't have the time to educate them.
I've seen that.
I rather make less money or less of a return with people that are already doing what I'm doing. We have we have the same understanding, we have the same risk, we have the same skin in the game, and everybody feels more comfortable. I don't want to see them at a party and be like, they're like, where's my money? I don't know, there's delays.
Then they're rolling up with a 380, right? Where's my money? Yes. Did that answer your question? Okay, cool. Any more questions? Awesome.
You guys have
This
been
has been a
great.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah.